Hello, VC. Plastic Eric here. Plastic Soundwave Cole here for kind of a June gloomy day for a collection connection. The game is just an excuse to talk about music. It's a game I play with my brother Bryce over on Good Show Ponsonby. Every Monday I show a video. Every Thursday he shows a video. And between those videos we make connections of the albums that we show to the records in our collection. So I'll do one on Monday. He'll connect to it on Thursday. And I'll connect to that one on Monday, so on and so forth. I think this is 330 that we've done of these now. And so, yeah. And to figure out the connection, well, that's up to you. So, the last person to get the correct connection on Bryce's video was, of course, Murdock. I tried to hold on to the excitement there, but it didn't quite work out. Yeah, Murdock got it right again. The connection between the two was between Savoy Brown and Dexy's Midnight Runners album was the fact that there was only one remaining original member in the band at that time. So I ended up going kind of in a deep dive on the Touraye album that Bryce showed on Thursday. Very interesting album. That whole band was interesting. And looking into Kevin Rowland, it was interesting to me how they always had like an aesthetic that went with kind of each album. So like on the one for their first album, they kind of wore like, they look like dock workers to me is what they look like. They look like dock workers. Then you had Touraye came out and they did the whole Irish look and the whole dungarees and all that, which I found very interesting because at first everything you look up about Dexy says they're from Birmingham. But you find out that his parents were Irish, and that's what he was tapping into, was his Irish ancestry. And clearly, even with the cover, a lot of the music to me is an ode to Van Morrison. And he kind of hit you over the head with it. I mean, it's pretty clear that that's who his soul influence is. And I don't mean soul like as an only, but his soul interest in soul music kind of comes from. But he went on to do like other things where, you know, he looks a little bit different. And at one point, let's see, he did the dungarees, he did the hats, he did some other styles. And then I found out that he had put out this album, which I found quite interesting because it's the only time I could think of him not having a mustache. So, but overall, I found listening to Touraye, I've never listened to the entire album before. I know Come On Eileen and that song will make me snicker till the end of my days. And when you read the lyrics, it just solidifies it even more for me. I do love the cover song of Jackie Wilson Says on there. It's fantastic. To be honest, I like it better than the original. It has a little bit more pop to it for me. Most of the songs pretty much had that same kind of aesthetic. There was one song that I remember listening to it on there, and I can't think of exactly what it is right now, but it had more like a jazz feel to it. So that was kind of an interesting break in listening to the album. And so with that, let's figure out what I connected it to. And so, The album that I connected to Dixie's Midnight Runners Tour was Howard Jones, Dream into Action. It was a pretty big hit right when he kicked in with his first album. This made it, solidified it even more, especially in England. And it has some great tunes on it. Things Can Only Get Better, Life in One Day, No One Is to Blame. Let's see, Look Mama, Bounce Right Back. I mean, there's some great tunes on here. And there's actually a pretty good sounding album on top of it. And so he mixes it up a little bit. He's mostly known as a synthesizer guy. He's one of the first guys that I can kind of remember he's basically the guy that put all the music together. And, you know, he gets some help here and there from other things. There was a few surprising things that have to do with the connection, so I won't necessarily mention it, but not as many synthesizers on here as you might think, and even though there are a lot. And so things that I thought were synthesizers turned out to not be synthesizers. And yeah, the interesting thing about this is that he took some of the songs from this, I think some of the songs from Humans Lib, and I know he had another album in there somewhere, and he actually came out with Action Replay, which has about 4 songs from that and a couple songs from the first one, and I think the last one is from the album before he put this little EP out. It featured Phil Collins on drums on the remix of No One's to Blame. I think that one ended up being the big hit that occurred for him in the US. And I don't know how well he did here. You know, this is really rough on getting to see it there. It's not the greatest picture to begin with either, which I always thought it was weird. It's not credited on here, but it looks very similar to this right here. And I wonder if the same guy did the artwork for it. But I was trying to find out if that was the case, and it turns out it's not credited on here, and I can't find it anywhere on Discogs. But yeah, Howard Jones is the album that I connected to that. Try not to make these too long, so there's just a few little facts in there about it. See if you can make the connections between my album and Bryce's album, and hopefully you can figure out